The Sister is one of those episodes of Everybody Loves Raymond where I did enjoy it. There were a couple of very funny moments, but in general, I thought it was okay. This is the 6th episode of the 4th season of Everybody Loves Raymond. It's directed by Whelan, Mackenzie, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. And we find out that Debra's sister is coming to visit. This is Jennifer, played by Ashley Crowe, and she actually reveals that she's become a nun, which is quite a surprise because her lifestyle would not suggest that. And it does seem like it's going to be a big lifestyle change. Robert comes over. We have a really lovely scene between Jennifer and Robert, actually. It was really sweet. And then Ray and Robert start to sing Dominique, which I love. Debbie Reynolds singing that song is just absolutely fantastic. So that made me very happy. And then it's bedtime. Debra's upstairs. Ray comes upstairs and we learn that he was watching The Sound of Music. He does a Julie Andrews impression. And then he's taking his shirt off and he lets it hang down his head so it looks like he's wearing the habit or the hat of a habit. And Jennifer comes in and he puts his fingers over his chest. It's a very funny moment because of just how ridiculous Ray looked and how ridiculous he must have felt. And Jennifer, thankfully, didn't take offence to it or anything. And when Jennifer leaves, Ray tries to find out why Debra is so bothered that her sister is becoming a nun. And actually, I thought that what Ray guessed, which I'll talk about in a moment, was genuinely why she was bothered. But we don't find out until the end why she was really bothered. And we'll talk about that when we get there. But Ray suggested that Debra was bothered because she would no longer be the good sister. Because Jennifer had quite a wild, carefree lifestyle. And Debra is a little bit more, I guess, socially acceptable in her behaviours. And now, well, if your sister's a nun, you're definitely not going to be as good as that person. Debra says no, and she also didn't take offence to it. I did think when Ray said that Debra was going to completely fly off of the handle, but she didn't. And I honestly thought that that's what was bothering her, but we'll come to that in a bit. The bulk of the rest of the episode is a scene around the dinner table with Ray, Robert, Debra, Jennifer, Marie, and Frank. And the conversation's really great, very well written dialogue, a lot of back and forth. And Robert, while Debra's in the kitchen, actually approaches Debra and tells her that he's seen her face before looking in the mirror. He knows what it feels like to feel like the number 2 sibling. And he tells this story about a bongo monkey. It's a sweet story, but also that would be very annoying for Robert, where basically he had a bongo monkey. They brought baby Ray home. They gave the monkey to Ray, and that would be very irritating. But again, Debra insists that that's not the case here. And she just dishes up the ice cream, goes back to the table. And then we have a bit of suspense because just before that, Marie had decided to go and get dessert. She'd made something special for Jennifer, so she goes back home and she comes in. I think this was unpredictable. I was not expecting her to come home with a cake in the shape of a cross. Quite a big cake as well. And what's really interesting about this is that either she had a cross mould ready-made, or she spent a lot of time shaping this cake. I mean, I can't bake. I imagine it's probably not the hardest thing to put kind of several rectangles together or oblongs, but I imagine icing it would have been really difficult. Maybe not. I don't know. I can't bake. But it was very impressive anyway, to say the very least. And it looked fantastic. And while they're eating their cake and ice cream, Debra starts to say some unkind things about Jennifer, basically throwing her under the bus, pointing out lifestyle choices that wouldn't really fit in well with the life of a nun. And it was really mean. And Marie even said to Debra at one point that it was unnecessary. It was uncalled for. And usually when Marie says something like that to Debra, Marie's over-exaggerating. Marie's being too sensitive. But actually, I think she was right to put Debra in her place on this occasion. Debra was completely saying things that were uncalled for. And Debra ends up leaving. And while she's comforting herself with her secret candy stash, Jennifer comes upstairs and she ends up sitting down talking with Debra, and we find out exactly what was bothering Debra, and it's quite sweet. This is not what I'd predicted, but Debra reveals that the reason she's so bothered is because Jennifer will be going far away, and that means her sister won't be around, and she was basically mourning what could have been because she always wished she had a closer relationship with Jennifer. She points out that even though Ray and Robert have a very bizarre relationship, they still have each other. And I guess Debra was realising that she always thought Jennifer would be in her life at one point, and now if she's going off to become a nun, that seems really unlikely. And it's believable. I believed what she was saying. I just didn't expect it. And it was quite a sweet scene. We then end with the dinner table, and everybody's still eating their ice cream, and Robert had been given more than Ray. And Ray's trying to get more ice cream, there's none left. So Frank ends up giving Ray Robert's ice cream. And Robert just stands up, walks out, but before he leaves, he turns around and all he says is bongo monkey. Which, for Ray and Frank, was completely random. They weren't privy to the conversation earlier, so I found that to be very funny. And a very kind of light-hearted way to end things as well. So in general, it is a good episode. There's nothing about it that I didn't enjoy. It's just maybe not an all-time personal favourite, but I don't mind it. I probably wouldn't skip it if I'm binge watching this season. And there are some highlights. I liked how passionately Robert told his bongo monkey story. I liked the several times they sung Dominique. And Ray's Julie Andrews and then nun impression I thought was pretty good as well. So definitely not a bad episode. Maybe not a personal favourite, but The Sister is still a pretty good episode of Everybody Loves Raymond.